not a technician guy. Ooh, I'm talking. It's finally said, "You're alive." It shocks me every time when it says that. I always say, "You're alive." Hello, TCI family. Welcome to church tonight. Tonight is a special service for me. I'm going to get started momentarily. Would you get the fan turned off so we can hear? And just kind of knock on the door so Cammie knows we're going. Tonight, I'm going to do something, start the night off with lighting a candle, actually. A lot of you know my mama died. Mama Kelly Pearson. I honestly thought it was maybe like 10 years ago. And I think mentally I make it seem like it was yesterday because I see her all the time in my head still. But my dad said it was a lot longer. So from what I gather, it's been almost since 2009 when she died. But when she died, at the funeral, this was a candle that I was given. All the kids were given candles. And matter of fact, the whole family. And we lit them. And I always pull it out of this thing I have every year, and I light it just for a minute on December 1st, which is the day Mama died. And then early in the morning, she battled cancer for 6 years. Beat it, get another round, beat another round, beat it. Just one of the toughest women I've ever known. And but she's the message tonight. And this candle, which I'm not going to let burn much longer, is part of the message. And if you ever went to Sunday school as a kid, you heard a little song, and I'm bad at the lyrics, but I think it says, hide my light under a bushel. No, I'm going to let it shine. Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. That song and that candle and my mom are why I'm here to this day. Most of you know I spent a good portion of my youth in the criminal world. And that world is a very violent and not forgiving. And the things that I did haunt my memories to this day. And I'm not proud of those things. My nickname, The Beast, is not something that I turned it into something good, but when it was bad, I regret every second of those things. And I remember I was in Maine and I got out of prison. I went in twice for 2 years, and I purposely put myself in prison. I needed to go away. I was starting to become famous. I spent a life living in the shadows. You didn't know who I was. You just knew there was a crazy Irishman running the crew up there, but nobody knew who I was. I didn't live the life of a gangster. I didn't have my pants sagging down below my britches. I didn't have 6 pagers hanging off my pouch. I didn't floss this, satellite phones and all that stuff that would let everyone in the town know that you're a dealer. I didn't do any of that. I did the complete opposite. My father, I listened to all those stories that my birth father told me about working with the CIA. And I said, okay, so if they don't know I'm the man, then I can run everything. So I put up dummies and guys who were pretending to be the boss on this side. And this guy's pretending to be a boss when they're all working for me. So I lived in the shadows. And I survived an amazing amount of time in those shadows. But after the second stint, I had to go back in because I was starting to get too hot. People were starting to know who I was. People were starting to catch on. And so I went back in. And when I got out, I laid low on this little lake that my adopted dad provided for my birth father. Richmond, it's called, I can't remember the name, but I'll remember. But it's a beautiful little lake. And I remember no one knew I was there. So no one could come. None of my guys could come. None of the Irish could come and find me. Be like, boss, I had phones blowing up. Boss, what are we doing? What's going on? What's the next one? And I just wasn't answering anything because I really wanted to walk away. And I wanted to walk away because sincerely in my heart, I knew that I was darkness and I wasn't being light. And Mama Kelly, I was driving down in Gardner, and Mama Kelly pulled up in a corner, and I see her, and she saw me, and she does that little finger thing, and I pull over, and she pulls in. She says, "What you doing?" And I told her what I was going to do. And we talked for a few minutes, and we caught up, and then we got a little bite on this little cafe on the bridge. And I remember she put her hand on my hand. She says, "You're struggling with something, baby." And I was like, I am. And I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want her to know who I was and what I had done, what I had created. And she was so sweet. She kind of pats it. She goes, you know I know everything about you. And I said, "Oh, Mama, I wish you did." And she goes, oh, honey, I do. And she goes, you're better than that. She goes, you need that light of yours shine. You've put it under a bushel. You have taken the little boy who used to be the most joyful little boy. My birth parents would tell the story when we started a church in California in SoCal, about 2,500 members to Daddy's church we had. We started it in a park, and they'd have food. And we didn't have a lot of food, but you get one plate. And if you drop it or lose it, you're on your own. Well, I'd take my one plate and I'd run off and find the scariest homeless looking dude there was, the craziest lady screaming. I'd be like, do you want some food? And they all stopped screaming and stopped getting crazy. And they're like, oh, yes, I'd like some food, little boy. And I had no problem telling everybody, hi, my name is Jonathan Brown. And my daddy is this. And we have a church right over here. And you're loved. Come on over. And I lost that. And that little boy disappeared. And she's holding my hand and she says, I want you to just shine bright. She goes, your wick was designed to burn long and hot. So you're like a furnace and you will ignite other wicks, other people's lights. And together, you and those people can change the world. And it stuck in me. And we left, we had that moment, and it just gnawed on me and gnawed on me. And there was a couple scriptures. It was interesting that they came to light because I got home that night and I flipped it open to the book of John in the Bible in chapter 1, verse 5. It says, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. Now think about that. The word the darkness didn't comprehend it. How does dark comprehend? It doesn't. It's speaking of the evil. The evil inside of us, it can't comprehend light. And that's why when there's light, the darkness has to hide. It has to flee. It has to run because it can't hide in the light. It has to hide by finding where there's no light. So it hides where there's no light. And when that happened, I was like, okay, this is kind of, interesting. And then I flipped again and I found another one that really touched me. And it was in Luke chapter 8. And verse 16, it says, no one, when he has lit a lamp, covers it with a vessel or puts it under a bed, but sets it on a lampstand that those who enter may see the light. And that's our job. That is our actual job, to shine bright as we can and try to illuminate the path that you're on, right? And enough around you. If you guys travel, we hike a lot of the guys with me. And you have headlamps in the front. We got back headlamps. We like to illuminate the path so that if Jesse didn't have a headlamp, like one time he didn't, and we're going up a mountain and we're going to be in the darkness on cliff corners that are sheer drops of 1,000 feet. Well, how do we fix that, Cam? Cam had his light. He was in the front. I had my light. I was in the back. Jesse was in the middle. Our light covered Jesse's darkness. So we illuminated Jesse's path for Jesse. He didn't illuminate his path. Cam and I illuminated his path. Because of that, he was able to traverse a place that had 1,000-foot cliff drop-offs up for the next 3 hours when it was dark until the light from the sun came up. And that's how it is in life. Today I go to Olive Garden. It's the thing I do it was her favorite restaurant. And I remember when I got real filthy, stinking rich, I came back to brag and I wanted to take mom and dad out to fancy restaurants every night. And mama didn't want anything to do with it. I'd take her to the most expensive place and she'd be like, waiter, what's the cheapest thing on the menu? And she literally asked him that. Do you have a special? I'm like, Ma, it's like a $200 plate place. What are you doing? I got money, I'm trying to bless you. And she's like, oh, that's just too much now. And then they get to my dad and they're like, and how about you, sir? What's the most expensive thing? I ain't like her. I'll take what you got. And that was my dad. And my mother, she had this amazing way. And so her favorite place was Olive Garden. Back then it was like $5 for soup and salad, all you can eat. Yeah. And that's what she would do. That was the fancy night out. So I always go to Olive Garden, and today I went to Olive Garden. I don't ever eat there, but once a year. And I think of the memories of my mom and the battling of cancer and how she fought and all the things we went through. But I think of that day in Gardner, Maine, when she put her hand on me and she said, I want that little boy back. The little boy a 7-year-old prior little boy, the one that was so sweet and loved everybody. I want him back. And that was the turning point in my life, is that person showed me their light. My path was dark, and I had lived in the shadows for so long that it became so pitch black that I couldn't see light. It was like a black hole. If you know much about black holes, light doesn't even escape into that thing. It's gone. And that's how I felt, like I was this black hole. And I believed if I stayed any longer in that world that I was in, I would have never come back out of that black hole. And so that light was illuminated by Mama Kelly. And I look back and I think, wow. Now, not me. I don't care about I'm not bragging about this, but I'm trying to say this in honor of my mama. I wonder how many people's lives that I changed. That's on her. That's on her. Because of her shining her light, people got help. Because of her shining her light, I was able to use my old connections to go bust into a trap house down the street here and save a little girl from who knows what they would have done. Because of her connections, I've been able to use my past connections and what I learned to take people and turn them away from the cartel and turn them away from the gangs and show them you can get out. There are ways. It's possible. You can leave the mob, okay? It's complicated, but you can do it. Because of her, not me. It's not me. That is on her. And so when you walk down the street, do you guys see people and you're just like, oh, look at that person over there. They're so sad. They're so pitiful looking. I need to shine some light on them. But we don't do it too often, except this time of year, don't we? I love this time of year. And I'll tell you why. The world's a little kinder for about 30 days. They're just a little sweeter. And how you can see this and determine it. Are there still jerks out there? Look, you're going to find jerks till the day you die. But the next 30 days, you're going to see the kind acts. People maybe being a little more gracious and saying, no, you go ahead and get the cart first. Oh, go ahead. You pull in the spot. It's okay. I'll get another one. For 30 days, you see this. It's more prevalent. And I used to say to my mom, why can't we do that all the time? Well, you know what I mean? Why can't we be like that all year long? And so with that in mind, and the scriptures that we talked about here, when it says no one, when he has a lamp, hides it. Well, don't hide your lamp. Let that light shine bright. I sometimes worry when I rest with my heart conditions. They've got me on so many drugs that I sleep a lot, and I don't like that. And I'll tell you why. Because I want to be out there with my light shining bright. I want people that can't see a path to be able to see a path. There's people we work with that are just, it's very sad when you hear the stories. Pregnant moms that are addicted to meth and they're clients of ours. And it's so horrible. And they're trying to, and they have their baby. So now that they finished sobriety because they had the baby, now they can go do drugs again. And well, they can't afford drugs, so they go prostitute themselves. And I'm sitting here listening to these stories, and I'm just like, oh my. And I'm talking to my head psychologist at my office, and I'm sitting there saying, how can we help them? What else can we do? Because I never feel like we can do enough. I always feel like there's one more person I can help. There's one more Jonathan out there that I can reach. And if I can just reach one more Jonathan, that's all. And that's really what I wake up and think about. It's what I go to bed losing sleep about. And I want you guys to take away from this Christmas moment, because it's a magical thing if you will let it be. See, it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't touch you. If this doesn't touch your heart, then forget it. My words are falling on deaf ears. But I promise you, if you will embrace that magic, that belief, I believe. Is Santa real? No, of course he's not. I'm sorry, kids, if you're watching. But what is real? The spirit of Santa is a real thing. You can historically go back and see where it came from and how it, and then we can say, oh, well, the Christians stole it and made Christmas their day. All these things. Yes, they've all done that. Everyone has cannibalized all these stories over time. It's not the point to argue about the little nitpicking. How about we get to the point of it, which is, 'tis the season. 'Tis the season. So, are you going to keep being grouchy? Are you going to keep being, or are you going to say bah humbug to being bah humbug? I want to be that little boy again. I want to believe there's good in the world. I want to wake up and think this person's not trying to screw me over. They really just want a helping hand, even though everything in your body is telling you they're just trying to one up over you. It's hard to lose that, especially in the shoes I walk in every day, because we see every con that you could imagine come our way. And so it sometimes breaks that heart. And I always look forward to this season for myself, because I'll be honest with you, it rejuvenates me. It takes me back. By the time Christmas comes, I'm like a little boy again. I'm just like a little kid inside. And there's a scripture in the Bible where the Christ said,
have faith like a child.
Yes, sir. He said, you have to have faith like a child. You have to be born again like a child. Now, the Christians use that as the reason that we should all be saved and sanctified and all this stuff. And we'll debate all that legalistic aspect in some other meeting. That's not what I'm doing here. Believe like a child. Because as a child, I believed anything. I believed I could fly. So you know what I did? I got up on my daddy's roof in Texas. I took a black trash bag. I put 2 holes in the side. I put my arms in it. It was a parachute. And I told all the kids in the neighborhood to watch me fly. I jumped off. I hit that ground like a ton of bricks.
How many balloons?
I busted a few. But I believed. I believed I could be president. I believed I could change the world. And then all of a sudden you grow up, they tell us. You grow up. Well, listen here. I don't want to grow up anymore. I want to devolve. I want to head backwards to that childless
You want
state.
to grow down.
I do. Because it's in that moment, Mikey. It's in that moment where that childlike belief comes out of you. And then something magical happens. The true reason for Christmas, for me, this is for me, is it recharges me to remember the beauty that God has bestowed on us is love. And at our church, we have the tenet of our church is real simple. Love all. Gay, straight, black, white, Jew, Gentile, does not matter. Love all. Why can't we do that a little more this year? Sorry about the cough.
Yeah.
So as I close tonight out, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about how you can shine your light a little brighter in this world, how you can take a little more joy, to the other person that's maybe worse than you are. And maybe this next 30 days, we learn not to complain as much about our situation. And instead, maybe we do something different. And we ask someone, how are you doing today? And let them tell us all their garbage. And then let's put positive light back in their life. Because if we can shine light for a person when they can't, I promise you, I was worth it, folks. I was worth my mother's light. I was a little boy who had turned into a monster, and an older lady's light shined on this little boy and changed my world. And so I just want you to know that no one's so gone that they can't change. And I'm living proof of that. So as you go out this week, share that light, share your light, be the light. Because if you're asking for, I wish God showed a nicer, no, he showed it. He created you. So be the light. You are the light. Remember in the beginning? Hide it under a bushel? No. I'm going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I asked Cam to do the song, but he said no. You're probably lucky I did. All right. I love you guys. You guys know the drill. Live positive.